How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Bodacious Rant with your ever so loving, handsome, and awesome host, Burn and Rye. Hope everybody's doing amazing. I know we both are, just because, man, what an incredible night of television. I don't think I've been this excited for a show since probably Loki season 2. I know I really did enjoy Invincible season 2, but hate to say it, this blew it out of the water. And if you haven't guessed it from the title, the thumbnail, all that good stuff, our stupid demeanor, we are talking about X-Men 97, the latest revival from Disney Plus. And it literally is a take on a reboot slash continuation of the not a reboot. I'm sorry, it's a continuation of the original X-Men series from 97, when back on the days of Fox Kids. I don't know if you ever remember watching that, Burn, but that's where I was enjoyed my cartoons and stuff. That and Toonami were my go-tos. But
oh yeah, as a fellow 90s kid, I definitely remember all those.
oh, the good times, the simple times. But this is going to be some spoilers, everyone. I know, just because Burn is ready to burst with excitement, and there's a couple things I may want to divulge. So we're going to give our rantings in just a minute. And if you do happen to like the video, please give us a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already, just to not only grow the ranting community, but just keep in touch with our videos, and ring the bell just to always get notified when we drop one. So we appreciate that, guys. But man, this was a series that, with Disney kind of all over the place with the Marvel Universe, and their live action remakes have been garbage. This is one I was like, let's see how it goes, because the animation didn't look bad. And then also a friend of mine from growing up from like high school, middle school, he actually worked on this in the animation stuff. So I thought that was another reason to get me somewhat excited. And shout out to you. You know who you are. Fantastic job. What a great first season. I'm giving it a hard 5 out of 5. There's no questions. There's really nothing that could have made this more perfect, to be honest, unless you want to be really, really nitpicky on it. And I think this is one of those shows that, if you love Marvel, you kind of want the nostalgia back. This is kind of one of those few pieces of content to spend money on an app like Disney Plus, in my opinion.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, coming into this, I really didn't have like crazy expectations, just because I thought, okay, this is going to be one of those times where they kind of rely on the nostalgia factor. They were bringing back a classic show from the 90s, and we're going to give it to you in, a nice, new, clean package. And, to be honest, I would have been happy with that had we gotten something like that, just what we got back in the day with, updated animation and then like newer stuff. So, yeah, what we actually got instead was something far greater than I could have expected. I mean, for anyone that knows the X-Men and like follows them in the comics and stuff, they know that the X-Men are sort of an allegory for marginalized people, and no more so than before, no more than ever before have they sort of tackled that aspect of the X-Men, and the way that they tackle it, not only with just like grace and finesse, but sort of head on. In movies in the past that we've gotten, they've sort of touched on those subjects, here and there, but never before have I seen it so blatantly confronted. And to get that in an animated show is just kind of like crazy to expect, because, the comics and the text are dripping with it, and to get it fully realized in animation and in visual media forms, just incredible. I mean, enough can't be said about the animation alone, the art style, sort of bringing back that old look from the 90s, but sort of in an updated form. And just with that paired with the really great voice acting from the entire cast, and just again to touch on these epic storylines that we've gotten in the comics, and bringing them into this visual medium with a different spin on it, so old fans and new fans can both enjoy it. And again, touching on those very sensitive topics, it's amazing. It really is it's a work of art. It can't really be put in any other way. It's just what they were able to do with this 10 episodes is just beyond anything I could have expected. And yeah, like you, I think this is one of the easiest 5 out of 5s I could have given. As a X-Men fan, the X-Men have always been my team. Avengers is kind of like a new thing, but I've always been an X-Men kid at heart. And just to get what we got here is just, man, it's just lucky to be alive. One of those, one of those moments where it's just like, man, could not have wanted anything more perfect to come from the X-Men. And man, did the X-Men 97 just really, really nail it from top to bottom.
Absolutely, absolutely. So for those of you who haven't seen this show, we're definitely gonna start jumping into some spoiler territory. So this is probably the time now to turn it off, come on back, maybe when you check out the show, or catch up for those who do have Disney Plus, and then yeah, come on back. But absolutely. And so now let's get started, shall we? With all that being said, the old X-Men show, I'm still trying to get through it. It is a bit of a struggle, not only just because of the outdated animation, but the 90s were very interesting time. Also, it's just it was basically a show that literally just put comics onto television. So it's literally supposed to be pretty accurate to the comics, and while that's not a bad thing, there are a lot of episodes I'm just like, let's get through this. Come on, get to the point, or let's get some action or something going on. Not to say that wasn't action packed. It was just a lot to go through. I'm like halfway through season 3. I'm on the last 2 seasons, so then once I'm done, I'll probably rewatch 97. And with that being said, do I recommend watching it before 97? Yes and no. Just because since it is a continuation, that's more the yes. But this show does a pretty good job of introducing the characters, kind of talking about their past with the past show for the most part. So, and if you kind of know the comics, you're fine. But I was a little worried about, like, after watching the original, I was like, oh god, if it's just gonna be nicer animation, but just like a lot of just kind of story, like not story, like more like padding, just a lot of random stuff that maybe is just whatever, like almost like the comics, because essentially that's what comics do. They kind of fill in a lot of stuff from time to time. So but that's, again, they managed to really modernize not only the animation but the storytelling. So every episode, even if it's not action packed, it is just impactful, just so well done, and almost every character gets their due. But the ones I think stood out the most for me this season were Cyclops, Jean Grey, Storm, Rogue, and Gambit. Those are, and also even I would say Magneto, because Magneto is always the bad guy. So putting him in a different light, where he's walking that fine line of mutant superiority, but also equality with humans and stuff, just trying not to be an aggressor, was very well told. And man, we got to see like god level powers and action from these characters that I never gave a crap about beforehand, or even in like the live action movies. So what did you think of like their overall, like, I know you kind of briefly touched upon it, well, not briefly touched upon it, but you were talking about it before you gave your ranting, but overall, what did you think of it, Byrne?
Yeah, I mean, look, the pacing of this series was pretty incredible, and I mean, it's just like it's just coming off of Invincible season 2, where I felt like the pacing was a real big issue with that season. To get the pacing here was just great. I mean, like 10 episodes, roughly like around 30 minutes each. I thought they were all densely packed, like you mentioned. They were filled to the brim with really cool action sequences, and also really good character moments. For people who are fans of X-Men, it's all about the superhero shenanigans and the soap opera melodrama that we're getting between like all the characters and their interpersonal relationships. A messy group the X-Men are, and that's part of the fun, is getting their getting their relationships and their physical, battles intertwined, where it's like, you don't know which side you come on, because it's like you agree with, each side of the conflict, and you like characters on both sides of the conflict. So that's why they're always really fun to watch. And that drama just like really, really just emphasizes the action. And yeah, I mean, like, that's what we get for 10 episodes, I will say. There were maybe a couple here and there that were like a little lighter on the subject matter, but I think they also serve their purpose in, building up the characters and, again, their relationships and stuff. I'm thinking of, the Jubilee and Sunspot episode. That's the one that comes to mind, that could be seen as like something that's like not integral, but in the grander scheme of things, it's like, oh, okay, I can see why that episode was there, to lead us into the following episode, which was just a doozy of an episode. But yeah, I mean, like the characters were all really well fleshed out. Like you, my favorite characters were probably Cyclops. I always thought he was kind of a jobber, in a lot of the depictions of him outside of the comics, of course. I mean, the movies and the old animated series, I didn't really care for him too much, but here I thought they really made it apparent why he is the leader of this group. And Rogue, I thought she was great. Gambit was great, and yeah, just like you, Magneto was one of, if not the standout of the series for me. Because yeah, as a kid, it's like, oh, okay, this guy's just the big bad. He's gonna be the villain that they come into conflict with and that they defeat by the end of it. But man, the way that they really intertwine his like motivations and his perspective into this season and really put it in the forefront. The big meme around the X-Men was just, hey, maybe Magneto is right about the things that he's saying, and no more do they push that in anywhere else than in this season of X-Men. It's just, man, like the things that he's saying and, the events that occur, it's just like, yeah, maybe he knows what he's talking about when it comes to, having to defend yourself against eradication. It's just really, really great stuff. And I thought, like, never before have I liked Magneto more. Not that I didn't like him. I thought he was great in the movies too, but just like a lot of things, I think this series just nails it the most.
Yeah, kind of going off of like my last bit on the character thing before we keep going. The movies definitely the only characters that truly did movies like the movies did justice were Magneto, Professor X, and Wolverine for the most part. And it's funny because it's like Wolverine's great. Don't get me wrong; he is one of my favorite Marvel characters. But in terms of the X-Men, it's like he is not the leader. He is kind of like the Batman of the group, where he's there, he does great stuff, he helps, he comes in clutch, but he's not the forefront. He is not the X-Man. Cyclops is the leader. He's supposed to be it. And like I think you said it perfectly that this is definitely I think this did a lot better than what the original series did. Showcasing not only his talents with his mutation of the laser eyes, and we got to see some great moments with that. But just kind of showing the conflict that he deals with as a leader, and I think that's very relatable. Rogue again, again, they don't do her justice in the movies whatsoever. This one, she's even more of a powerhouse than she was in this show. Just for those of you who don't know, like why Rogue can do what she does, is there is an episode or two that shows that she took Captain Marvel's powers, like Carol Danvers, and Carol was in a coma for a long time, really, and she felt guilty, but that's what made her who she is. And just seeing her, especially after Gambit's death, God rest him, in the series, one of the best episodes of all time. Her just going toe to toe with General Ross, Captain America. It just was like, man, she is a force to be reckoned with. And that's another thing I guess I want to say on the characters part is so many great cameos. Given majority of them were Morph turning into them, still awesome. But then actually seeing Captain America, Silver Samurai, Spider-Man, and then the finale where you get some of the coolest characters that not only are very popular live action, but are still great in the comics, like Daredevil, Doctor Strange, Cloak and Dagger, Black Panther is just, oh my god. I was having a freak out when there's this whole montage of cameos. I was like, oh, I was like, oh my god, heart attack. Like if it's like Conan O'Brien when he plays those video games, and one of them was like, it's happening, get out, this is it. That's just how I felt. So much fun.
Yeah, like on the fan service factor, they really nailed it. It's kind of like all the wish fulfillment that we wanted as kids. Seeing these other animated series, the Spider-Man '90s show, and all these other things where other characters would show up, and it's like, man, imagine what it would be like if it was all this like one seamless universe. When again we got that in sort of like in some sort of way with the MCU, and I'm sure we're gonna get even more now that they have more ownership of a lot of their properties that they didn't. But to get that sort of like connectivity in the animated form, like you mentioned, in with the cameos that Morph had with their powers, bringing in like things that we wouldn't even expect, like the Hulk. And it's like okay, I never thought that would be a transformation. But yeah, to see the events that are taking place have an effect on the wider Marvel universe at the end there was really, really cool. And again, just a fun treat for Marvel fans, and just the doing the whole wish fulfillment aspect of like, man, I wish these things could have like been like a whole thing, like a whole connected universe. that was all really cool. But I like that they also didn't sort of like fall into the trap of that being the only thing that they had to offer. And again, you know, these events that are occurring, it's like okay, they're localized, but they have a bigger ramifications for the rest of the world. I mean, like the whole Genosha massacre again that you mentioned, that the big linchpin that sort of like censors in this season is just it's just really really dire things are happening in here, and never before have I really seen it depicted that you know being a mutant is as dangerous as it is, where you feel like your very existence is being called into question and is in fear of losing your life. It's like they paid lip service to it, of course, in a lot of the other movies and things, but again, just to see the events that occur and they're really like put that statement into like they put an exclamation point on that statement that yeah, you know, this is why being a mutant is a scary thing. It's like, you know, the very thing that makes you different, makes you powerful, and people fear you because of that power. So it's just like man, like they've again, like they do a lot of great things in this series, and that they have done in other media, but never before has it really been like this sort of I don't know, just they haven't done it as well as they have in this series. It's just the best way to put it. Because yeah, we get all this great fan service stuff, but at the core of it is a really like deep X-Men story at its heart.
Yeah, no, very well put. And kind of these are gonna kind of go hand in hand, like moments, but also like the story and pacing, like you were talking about earlier. Not only did it, this was the show that I think really put it in the space of like, yeah, the mutants are really marginalized group, and that, again, that goes for all kinds of minority groups right now and currently, and like the Genosha episode was case in one of them, and then the reactions to atrocities like Rogue is like the Rogue episode where she's just on a mad hunt on like hell hath no fury, really just trying to find out who was responsible for Gambit's death. It's very relatable and it's heartbreaking. That was the episode I remember I was talking to you like, dude, Magneto is right. I'm sorry. Like that was one of those things that it just instantly made me think of Michael Fassbender's Magneto from First Class. Their whole little chess and their debate, about Charles want to be the better man, when Magneto's like, we already are. And technically, evolutionary with them especially, they are better. They are adapting to certain stuff. So it kind of goes two ways with that, and I think the showing both sides of the argument, like mutants being marginalized, but also there's definitely people who I don't know how to describe it. It's a lot, and it gets me excited talking about it just because it's too much. But those were great, and then the other thing I wanted to say too, kind of going along with it, was villains like Bastion and Mr. Sinister who abuse the plight for their own good and kind of rely on. There was that one episode, right? I think within the last part, like the last trilogy of episodes, that the Tolerance's Extinction, where Bastion has that line of when everything is, I don't know how to say it, Bern, I'm sure you probably remember it, but as essentially when everything, all this inclusivity and stuff is thrown at your face, people stop caring, and that apathy becomes your greatest weapon. And he utilized that to his finest point, him and Mr. Sinister. Just great storytelling and really making it so relatable. I don't think there's been a superhero show in a while. I mean, aside from The Boys, I think The Boys does a pretty good job, but that's kind of like a different side of society. That's a more political side, where I would say this is definitely more just like sociable. I don't know if that makes sense, or if I'm maybe contradicting myself, but that's how I feel with it.
No, and that is yeah, for sure. And that's why I think the conflict in this season is very it feels very real. That's why it's so good, because it just feels like okay, you can sort of relate it to things that are happening to the real world. It's like oh okay, you can kind of see how like people, like you mentioned, preying on fear of of the unknown, or of people, of things that are different, or things that they don't understand, is it's a very real thing. It's relatable in that aspect, and that's what makes that sort of drama just even more intense, because it's like okay, I can see it not exactly happening the way way it does in the series, with all these like crazy Sentinel things. But we see we see it in some form or fashion in the real world, and that is one of the things that makes the series so great, is that there are actual stakes in here, and that's one of the things that I felt has been missing in a lot of superhero content lately, in particular with the MCU, where it feels like things don't really matter, and it feels like the situations that they find themselves in aren't really as dire as they want them to seem to be. It's like nowhere in like in Thor Love and Thunder or in like Miss Marvel do I fear, oh, maybe something bad might happen to the hero. In this one, again, after the events of Genosha, it's like, okay, it's all fair game. Anyone could get the chopping block at any moment, and it's like, okay, that it adds a real fear factor to, okay, maybe the characters might not make it, or maybe things might not go as planned, and yeah, it just makes the villains even more terrifying at the end of the day, and it makes and then in the reverse makes you root for the heroes even more. So it's just like, again, the tension and the stakes involved are really dire, and they feel real, and it's like, okay, then this is real drama here, and that's makes it so much fun. And yeah, it's like the getting Bastion and Mr. Sinister is also real cool in the aspect that we don't really see those characters a lot in other media. I mean, we haven't gotten them at all in live action, and less so even really in the comics. Like, Bastion is a character that was completely new to me, someone who has read comics here and there, but it's not like deep into the lore. It's like, okay, this is really interesting and new. And Mr. Sinister is one that I've always been like, man, I really want to see more from them. And it's like, okay, we got it here, and it was really awesome. It's something different from the Magnetos and the Sentinels and stuff, which we do get in this series, but they add other flair to it with Bastion and Mr. Sinister, and it's like, okay, I'm seeing something new for once.
Yeah, just because Magneto, Apocalypse, Mister Sinister, they were the constant villains throughout the first show, and also the Boulevard Trask was one of them. The Sentinels, of course, just a lot of, but they were constantly recycled, constant conflict with them, and Bastion was just fantastic. This show definitely makes me not only like the X-Men a lot more, but really want to get into the comics. And um, I think the only other things I really want to mention is that, not with the animation being just perfection with the action, and it's almost like a simple touch up, but just everything looked better and flowed a lot better. It definitely makes me want to revisit the old Spider-Man series, and with Spider-Man being teased in Daredevil, basically New York City, along with the Avengers. It's like, dude, we could have the X-Men and expanding on the animated universe and having more of these cameos here and there. And then having Spider-Man come in with his cameos, because he had a decent amount too, from what I remember. I still gotta watch it, rewatch it, because you said he never throws a punch, and I find that hard to believe, but you're most likely right. It's just mind-boggling, but and you did make a good point. While it does have a lot of great cameos, I'm glad that's not what it needed. It didn't need any of these characters really, but they definitely added some cool moments and just reminded us that, yeah, X-Men they're usually about themselves, like they're their own contained stories, but that doesn't mean they're not part of a bigger world, because a lot of shows I feel like fail to do that really. So just fantastic job. I can't praise this enough. I think after I've let all the emotional impact from the Genosha episode, the last few episodes, and Cable's storyline with Cyclops and Madeline Pryor, that was amazing too. Because I don't know too much about Cable aside from like the video games and then Deadpool 2 and stuff, but yeah, now I definitely want to revisit him and kind of see more of that stuff. So man, I'm so glad we watched this, and I can't wait to see. Hopefully, we get another one in the next couple years. I don't know, because Marvel's shifting all their schedules and stuff around, but time will tell. But this is just another hit, and I'm excited for anything X-Men going forward.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, dude. It's like, it's with this series being sort of the Disney's first foray into the X-Men aspect of the Marvel universe now, after getting it from Fox. It's like, this really does set the bar in terms of like how we want to see the X-Men going forward, or at least how I want to see the X-Men going forward, whether it be in the continuation of the series, and or with the live action stuff that we're bound to get. It's like, you now set the table for, it's like, okay, this is what we're going to be expecting now. This level of storytelling, this level of character work. It's just it's everything again as an X-Men fan I could have ever wanted, and it's like now I can't accept anything less than that. So that might be an unfair comparison for everything to come, but I think I mean I can't. I don't know what to do with my expectations now when it comes to the X-Men. It's like they better do it justice in the live action form because they did it so well here. Like you, I'm very eager to explore even more X-Men stuff, going back into the comics and you know, catching up on the different arcs that I haven't gotten to in the past. So it's like, yeah, this is sort of revived that sort of the sort of eagerness to consume X-Men related stuff, and it's like, man, what a better way to do it than to with this really cool animated series to sort of revive that aspect of the fandom and to give the fans who have been waiting for something like this what they wanted and for the whole time. So it's like, yeah, this season of television could not be more of a win for Disney and for Marvel. It's like, again, like as an X-Men fan, exceeded all of my expectations.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah, now I'm just looking forward to Deadpool 3 or Deadpool and Wolverine, the Wolverine game from Insomniac. And yeah, I definitely want to see hashtag Avengers versus X-Men in the animated series because it's not going to happen. I doubt it'll happen anytime soon, but the way they hinted at it in this show, there's just so many storylines they could keep exploring. And oh my God, I'm so excited. But for those of you who stuck around for this, we thank you so much. Let us know what you thought of it in the comments. We'd love to keep the conversation going. Are you now an X-Men fan, like more like myself, or did this exceed your expectations, or is it just another list of animated shows? If it is, you got to give me a good reason why. Give us both a reason why, because I fail to believe how this is just ordinary to you. But until next time, everyone, just stay bodacious and keep on ranting for us.
Absolutely, everybody. Be good, be safe, and as always, we'll catch y'all on the next one.